This is Ed Lawrence with Colliers. This is our interview for the third quarter 2024 quarterly reports. I'm sitting here with the Chancellor of University of Pittsburgh, Joan Gabel. Thank you so much for being with us today. We really appreciate your time.
Delighted to be here. Thanks for having me.
Very excited to have the opportunity to interview you and find out a little bit more about some of the master plan strategy for University of Pittsburgh and some other things as well. So maybe just to kick things off, did you want to tell us a little bit about your background and what led you here to Pitt?
Sure. So I am a lawyer by training. Practiced law for several years and then was recruited onto the faculty of a business school to teach legal environment of business, business ethics, and also the business courses associated with the accounting program. And that later led to me chairing the Department of Risk Management, Legal Studies, and Real Estate at Florida State University. And that was my first exposure to the real estate side of the business school curriculum, other than my own personal buying and selling of my abodes, but certainly my first exposure to commercial real estate and the science and scholarship side of that work and the faculty involved in that side of things. And then as I came up through the ranks in the administration of the university, obviously having a large footprint at that institution, and then my own career going from department chair to dean of business, and then provost, and then president now here at Pitt as chancellor, being involved in campus master planning and seeing the footprint of an institution has been my own learning curve, and understanding commercial real estate from that side as well has been quite the journey. So here we are.
Excellent. That's a great segue to my first question, which is, have there been any particular surprises or challenges as you develop the strategy for the Pitt's master plan here in Oakland?
Yes, so this is, I think, if memory serves, the third master planning process that I've been involved in, either having served on a committee or having directed a campus master planning process. And it is always an interesting process. It's a fascinating process to think about how you find the intersections between the same challenges any entity would have from a commercial real estate planning process of programming space to meet the needs and mission of what the enterprise is trying to achieve. But in higher education, we're also looking around corners with how things are changing really rapidly with what we're trying to do. We don't just have office space, we certainly do. People forget we employ tens of thousands of people who sit in their offices, although not necessarily from 9 to 5, but we also teach, obviously. We research, and our research can involve wet lab space, dry lab space. It can, for some of us, involve chemicals. We are switching some of our work to hybrid, which I'm sure we'll talk about, or online. It can involve sports, it can involve clinical care. We try to create spaces that are very welcoming, and then of course in our particular set of opportunities here at Pitt, we're in the middle of a metro, so we're landlocked, and we have historic buildings that we treasure very much, that we want to make sure respect the history and tradition of our community, but also allow us to be very welcoming and inclusive, and welcome all of our students regardless of their physical abilities or their lived experiences, and that can vary a lot, and yet are historical, and they are often on the registry or have other challenges. So those are all very interesting intersections.
Oh, for sure. I mean, the school has such a storied history. A lot of the buildings that surround the campus do as well. So I know there's sensitivity. To focus on the hybrid and online learning, just looking at that piece of the puzzle, in your opinion, I guess your team, when you strategize, how do you think that will evolve in terms of how you utilize space moving forward as you try and accommodate a broader range of students with different needs?
So some universities are moving into totally online spaces. And obviously that would very much reduce their footprint. We're more in the hybrid space in terms of thinking about our future.
Right.
We very much have a signature in the student experience, and our students are anchored in a traditional, engaged, community-based experience. We do have a portfolio of online programs, and we're exploring additional options, but there is a very physical footprint to what we do.
Sure.
Also, we are a very active research campus, and our research is tied to a physical set of discovery and exploration opportunities, and that requires physical space. So the path that we see ourselves taking still requires a pretty significant investment in space.
Sure.
And we need to pivot around that. So where our changes are is not necessarily in a reduced need for classroom or dorm space, but change in that space or a flexibility in that space that's different from what we needed before. So for example, if you think about what the classrooms looked like, certainly when I was a student with a professor in the front of the room and seats that were nailed to the floor with the little side desk and your notebook where you took your notes, compared to seats that can roll so that you can turn and work together, and the professor is in motion or on a headset, because there's multiple classrooms in different locations going at the same time, and the professor may not even be in the room. Or you're working asynchronously and the professor is recorded, and you're together as students, or you're in global classrooms and you're working online, but the professor is in a classroom. Some of the students are in the classroom, some of the students are not.
Right.
What kind of classroom space do you need for that? Or what do the classrooms need to be configured as? So we may need the same square footage, but the utilization needs are different.
Yeah, we're hearing that a lot, as you can imagine, with multiple industries, that whole strategy has changed a lot. And then, part of what we practice and preach at Colliers has always been for companies to leverage and utilize their real estate, whether it be industrial or office or even retail, to recruit and retain talent. It's a little bit different with the university, but just wondering about your opinion of how Pitt can continue to garner a high, ranking national reputation as a prestigious university, which you have. Leveraging your campus and facilities, I guess both from a recruiting standpoint for the brightest professors and employees in general, but then also your student body too. How do you go about doing that, in your opinion?
Well, I think part of our story, and I mean, my son is a student here, and I know there's a lot of, we share some connections that way.
We do.
That part of what has been an attraction for this institution are the unique opportunities, learning experiences, but also outside the classroom experiences you can have from a traditional university that sits in a metropolitan area. And we think our footprint enables and facilitates that. Okay. So you can have a really fulsome three-dimensional traditional experience here with classes and student organizations and Greek life and all of the things that any traditional university offers, plus all of the things that a big city offers with cultural life and professional sports and beautiful downtown experiences, and then also just a few minutes from campus, beautiful hiking and outside and outdoor vibrant activities. So this is a very three-dimensional place. Okay. And you don't have to choose between what a city offers and what a traditional campus experience offers when you come to Pitt. And that's been a big part of what we sell, if you will, to a potential student and their family, plus top-notch medical care and everything else. But that means that we have to continually invest in those classroom buildings and the related buildings like the rec center, dining halls, the library, and the way in which we do research and the way in which students can roll up their sleeves and join into all of those activities. So same for faculty, the lab spaces, their workspaces, what they have access to like BioForge and the other research facilities that we make available to them, or the clinical spaces for our life sciences and health sciences side of the house, which of course is absolutely top notch around here.
Absolutely. I mean, all the way from obviously, Jonas Salk. Pitt has such a terrific, or I shouldn't say terrific, such an important legacy in terms of medical research, and it's wonderful to hear you say that continues to be a top priority. I joke with some of my friends who have attended neighboring schools that, although Pitt would love to have a football stadium on campus, I'd like to think that space is being used to develop cures for cancer and other diseases and things like that, where that's a very critical component to what Pitt brings to the world stage. So that's wonderful to hear. And in regards to, maybe that's a good transition for your capital campaign that's coming up. Just wondering, as much as you're able to share, key priorities or initiatives for that capital campaign as it relates to campus.
So I've actually spent my first year, just finished my first year as Chancellor, refreshing our strategic plan, which is the sort of underpinnings of a new capital campaign. And the strategic plan has 5 pillars. Of course, we anchor in cultivating student success. We propel scholarship, creativity, and innovation. We want to make sure that we're welcoming and engaged, which we've talked about. And we want to make sure that we are able to take moonshots and chances, and that we're accountable and trustworthy to the community that we serve as a public institution. And those are the pillars that we'll then use to advance our capital campaign to our more than 350,000 living alumni around the world, for them to think about what resonates with them in terms of supporting the institution and making sure that all of these areas in which we remain and hope to continue to be top-notch now and even more top-notch into the future can thrive on behalf of our students, on behalf of the research that we undertake, the rankings in which we continue to climb, the way in which that infrastructure supports and facilitates that, the way in which we're competitive, either athletically or in attracting students, or in the patent production that we achieve, the research that the cancer cures that we undertake, and are literally working on, as you described, and that's not just a twinkle in our eye, or the moonshots that we're pursuing, like BioForge, which is bespoke gene therapy, literally underway on this campus, or the list of things that I could describe to you, cannot happen without the support of alums like you, who are so helpful and generous in making sure that the investment they made in their educational time continues in their philanthropic support. And so when we develop a strategic plan, we do it in partnership with the alumni community, who have this unique perspective on what their education has meant to their own success. And then when we aggregate that and think about what then the institution means in its aggregated success, it sort of tells, it almost writes itself. So that's how the footprint of the institution as a physical thing, but the footprint of the institution as a mission starts to come together. Definitely,
without question. And just thinking about it, as you're talking about that, alumni and so forth, and I went through the Institute of the Institute of Entrepreneurial Excellence program, and it was wonderful. So I do consider myself, an alumnus of the university, and it's great that everything that goes into the capital campaign and building up what you're talking about, the infrastructure of the campus, not only benefits current students and past students, but I think the world at large. I don't think you can overstate that based upon the amount of research that is occurring here. So therefore, it's larger than just the university itself. So congratulations to you and your team in terms of not losing that perspective and wanting to build on it, to include such things as BioForge. So
thank you.
But this has been a fun conversation. I know I've learned a lot, and wish you and your team the best of luck moving forward.
Thank you.
So thanks again for your time.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for everything you do. You're a wonderful partner.
You bet.